That'd be hilarious.
No, not so much.
That would be hilarious.
Over your head.
Oh. Got it. Okay.
Oh, I stem is here.
Jerry kind of remembered a little bit here.
Good evening. Welcome to the May 14th, Monday evening of the Muscatine Community School District Board meeting. Madam Secretary, would you take roll and help us determine a quorum, please?
Sure. Director Bauer?
Here.
Beat?
Here.
Drawbaugh?
Here.
Finn? Mather? Carter?
Here.
Wildermuth?
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Would you all please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome our media representatives that are in the audience, and I'd really like to welcome our audience members. The chambers are almost full, which is really exciting because we don't usually have this many people in participation, and there's lots of young faces. So thank you for coming this evening. Next on our agenda is our student council report.
Hi, my name is Samara Perkins, and I am the Senior Class Vice President.
Hi, I'm Kendra Eller, and I'm the Junior Class Vice President. So, some important things that have been happening in the Student Council is that we just had prom at the Merrill this year, and it was a big success. We had over 475 students attend, and the overwhelming response seemed to be very positive. We hosted our annual Staff Appreciation Luncheon for all MHS staff last Friday. In addition to lunch provided by Las Lomas, the staff had the opportunity to win a variety of gift baskets filled with items donated from student council parents. Also last Friday, we hosted the middle school dance at the high school. This was a great opportunity for the middle schoolers to dance and have a fun night.
For next year, advisors have selected and notified students that will be on next year's student council, which is very exciting. Select students were also notified if they were eligible to run for executive board positions like we're on right now. Class elections for next year's representatives will take place at our end of the year meeting on May 17th. We will also give out awards and recognition of current members at this gathering. On May 18th, we're also hosting our last high school dance that we rescheduled from March. This is the underclassmen service project for the year, and the purpose of the dance is to raise money for the Muscatine Humane Society. In addition to the dance, teachers will be encouraged to bring their dogs to school this day if they donate pet food to our cause. Dog Day was a huge success last semester, and we are excited to have this opportunity again. Last semester they did it though for finals, and they just brought all the dogs, and it was really nice. And then finally on May 25th we are hosting our senior breakfast before graduation rehearsal. This year we are planning a pancake breakfast with a toppings bar, which I personally am very excited for. Yeah, that's all we have.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for these ladies before they sneak away?
It's been quite a year. So.
It has been quite a year.
It's hard to believe it's May.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our Earth Science student presentation, and I'm thinking that Jerry might have an introduction or two to make for me.
Well, we are very fortunate tonight to have some budding scientists here under the direction of Ms. Pam Joslin, who are going to talk about a project they've been involved with, and I'm going to not steal their thunder, since I know you guys didn't study thunder, and turn the podium over to the Earth Science class.
Holy cow.
I feel underdressed with that guy.
She must have given him all points for coming.
Hi there, I'm Pam Jocelyn, and I just wanted to introduce my Earth Science class. It's mostly seniors except for the 4 freshmen who joined us mid-year. And so they decided to do a study. This is what they wanted to learn. It fits our standards, and so this is what they wanted to present tonight. So I'm going to have Hannah, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Hannah. We are from Miss Jocelyn's Earth Science class. The rest of the class and I are here to talk about the human impact study on the Muscatine High School pond. The pond needs a lot of work, and it is our goal to make it a healthy, safe pond for the upcoming years at the Muscatine High School.
In order for us to understand the human impact study at our pond, we must first define watershed. Watershed is the area surrounding a body of water, whether that be our pond, a lake, or a river, or a stream, whichever. Water that flows over the surface and in the groundwater will bring contaminants to our pond. These contaminants include sediments, chemicals, and waste. Because a healthy pond starts with a healthy watershed. To have a healthy watershed, we may be picking up trash, or we could regulate the amount of chemicals that we spray on our lawns or our crops. Because a major problem in Iowa for water quality is non-source point pollution. This is when you have pollution coming from multiple places rather than just one. For example, you could have rainwater or snow melt or irrigation water that flows over the surface and brings contaminants to the groundwater and to the pond. And these contaminants include excess soil, chemicals, and nutrients.
So it's 54 to 80 acres create a watershed to the MHS pond. With a quick measurement in the rain, we calculated the area of the Bonnie parking lot at approximately 170 to 800 square feet, which is almost 4 acres.
In the fall, there is more algae growth, but in present day, as the rain washes the nutrients that go into the pond, the algae begins to come back in the summer. Next is the current uses.
Students from Mulberry Elementary School took a trip to the Muscatine High School to capture and observe tadpoles, along with other living creatures, or for an animal studies unit. After capturing, they brought them back to their classrooms to examine them closely for a couple weeks.
Second way that the pond is used is for a habitat for frogs and other organisms such as small fish. And the last reason is for the class of team games. They use it to canoe and kayak, and physics use it for regatta.
Our class had Holly Howard from the NRCS office come in, and they gave us the opportunity to test the different levels of the pond. So we tested the turbidity, which is the clarity of the water, which was within range. And we tested the oxygen levels, which were perfect, and the nitrate levels, which were low. All the tests will change due to the weather seasons or any weather events, and so we would recommend periodic testing.
So a healthy pond consists of watershed of 20 acres per 1 acre of pond surface area. Our pond's watershed is roughly 54 to 80 acres. Dissolved oxygen, as well as clean and clean water, is essential for a healthy pond. In order to obtain a healthy pond, we need to reduce sedimentation and nutrients entering the pond.
Previously, we had worked with the NCRS that included water testing that had micro and macro invertebrates. The students have learned the importance of watersheds and pond management. We had collaborated with the facilities director to make past recommendations that led us to cutting down some trees, so that we can decrease the erosion around the pond. The pond has gotten better, but it can still be improved further.
The trees need to be cut down within 30 feet of dam structure back to 50 feet.
We also need to cut down the little lone trees too close to the pond.
So on the intake pipe cover, that's what it looks like now, but it needs to be changed to a beehive-like structure for safety and less, I guess, cloggage, so to speak. Because the one we have now, it's too open, and if someone were to try to take out the debris from the pond, there's a possibility someone can get stuck or get hurt. So it could be like a safety. Plus, it's easier. And the beehive cover, as in the bottom picture, it would be like a better improvement, but it's only $360. So I think it'd be a better recommendation.
So for our outlet, there's only one giant slab below the pipe. It's not secured, and heavy flow may cause it to come loose. Instead, it would be better to have many, like 12-inch rocks below it with fabric underneath that to have a better grip. The whole outlet area needs to be reshaped and more into a bowl shape so it stops eating away at the stream and goes back towards the fence.
The overflow is partially blocked. Repair is needed to the overflow because the overflow is necessary to prevent the dam from breaking.
So part of what the NRCS office asked us to do is to meet with the neighbors around there and talk to them about safe or better methods to maintain their yards and to make sure that there's less those bad nutrients entering the pond. Another thing we want to do is that was recommended to us was utilizing the prairie strips. These are tall grass prairies that are native to Iowa, and they reduce a lot of the sedimentation coming into the water. So the University of Northern Iowa has a seed calculator, and they have this tall grass prairie center, and it's able to calculate what percentages of different types of seeds you need to mix. So they have different options, but one of them is the more economical option. So our half acre we're looking to plant would be $126 to $473, and then if we wanted more premium seeds, it'd be $201 to $719.
Another option would be rain gardens. Rain gardens are a more effective but more expensive option. They're 3-foot holes that they fill with rock or sand for an effective filter for chemicals or sediment.
And then another option would be considering the declinage of bees and the monarch butterfly population, adding like the prairie grasses and the rain gardens would help be able to like restore their habitats and bring their numbers back up. And then another idea we thought of would be adding bird feeders to our pond, because it would help not only add like more diversity with wildlife, other than like the frogs and so on. It'd also be more of like an ecology study. Like we can do like bird studies or something.
And then labeling the plants and trees, we can display the label, or we can use an accession label.
One of the future uses for the pond we would like to see it be used for is fishing. It would be really nice for fishing in many ways. It could be used for the recreational activities gym class. They could go out there and fish for a class period, and they would teach them how to fish, and they'd probably have fun doing it. There's studying opportunities for the forestry class and the biology classes. They could catch the fish and study them, or study how they reproduce, and like how to keep them growing healthily. The fish would help keep it clean and balanced. The fish would remove like some of the bad things from the pond, and you could have a variety of different fish in there, such as bluegill, sunfish, bass, and even catfish.
There's this animal that we need to trap, because it keeps making holes on the trail, and we need to prevent future damage. Seeds need to be planted along the bank of the pond to prevent further erosion.
The MHS pond is an amazing resource to have for many reasons. One of those reasons being that the students might find their passion being outdoors and maybe want a career in that someday. This will also allow our classes to collaborate and have people gain the skills that they need for communication. Also, another important thing is water quality. Water quality does not just affect the pond itself. The pond runs off into the Mississippi, and the Mississippi runs to the Gulf of Mexico. That means our water quality in our pond affects anywhere from here all the way down to Louisiana. We hope you take these recommendations to heart and that we can use this amazing resource to the best of its ability. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know, an important part of science is being able to share your findings. And without that, it's just interesting knowledge for you. But this really helps all of us, and we will certainly move forward on making sure we do what we can to protect the environment in the pond. I personally am going after that woodchuck. So I'm putting the woodchuck on notice.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate seeing all of you. I appreciate you explaining all of that in a manner that I can understand it, not going through your class in words that that made sense to me and with pictures that helped too. So thank you for that. Next on our agenda is our May employee recognition.
Tonight, I would like to honor these individuals for being our May 2018 Outstanding MCSD employees. Monica Chavez. Monica is a building aide at Jefferson Elementary, and she was nominated by Shelley Sowers. I would like to nominate Monica because she goes above and beyond her role here at Jefferson. Monica will cover for any employee with a smile on her face. She will come in early or stay late. Whatever is asked of Monica, she will gladly do. She is always willing to help others. She is kind and sweet with staff and students, and she is a great asset here at Jefferson. Next, we have Mr. Jeff Othmer. Jeff is a fourth grade teacher at McKinley, and he was nominated by Stacy Olson and a lot of former math students. Top 10 reasons Mr. Othmer is a great math teacher, and a few extras because 10 is just not enough. Here we go. 1, he does a great job of explaining math concepts. 2, if you don't understand something, he teaches you at a different pace. 3, he gives up his lunch to help students who do not understand a math skill. 4, he tells us funny jokes. 5, he is humble. 6, he teaches us how to solve math in many different ways. 7, he shows great math videos. 8, he shows us great mindset videos. 9, he breaks down math when it is hard. 10, he taught us to use mental math strategies to use in number talks. And 11, when we would finish our math, we would get to do cool math games on our computer. Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Sterner. Mike is a student success advocate, and he was nominated by Allison Thomas. Today, Mike went above and beyond for our district family. He delivered a donated washer to a family that has needed one since October. United Way found the donation, but we had to organize delivery. The family was supposed to come and pick it up, but at the last minute, they just couldn't make it. Mike offered to deliver it. The family was so grateful. I feel like he is always willing to help the students and families of MCSD. Thank you. Doreen Wagler. Doreen is a special education para at Central Middle School, and she was nominated by Tammy Holcomb. Doreen has been showing great leadership abilities throughout this last school year in making Central Middle School a great place to work. She goes above and beyond in trying to learn new academic skills to better our special education students every day. She thinks out of the box in trying to make our students better and wanting students to get the best education they can get. She will help with traditional and non-traditional teaching ideas to better all our lives. I have had the great pleasure in watching Doreen grow to become an outstanding person and paraeducator for both students and myself over the past 4 years. She is willing to tackle challenges and ask questions to improve her skills, as well as struggles, failures, repairs, and assists in new ideas. Lastly, Doreen is very passionate that all students and adults get an appropriate education to have a happy and successful academic career. I am very proud to nominate Doreen Wagner as Employee of the Month. I hope that you get the chance to meet and talk with Doreen to understand her talents and her passions to make Central Middle School a better place to work, learn, grow, and to help Central become a family-loving setting. Thank you. And last, we have Jamie Pugh. Jamie had a prior commitment to end-of-year activities in May, and Jamie is an instructional coach at Franklin Elementary, and she was nominated by Jason Wester. And Jason says this: Jamie goes above and beyond what is expected in her role as an IC. Jamie goes the extra mile to ensure that teachers and staff know that she cares deeply about them as an individual before she challenges them to stretch themselves professionally to engage all students in learning experiences that help them be the best that they can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, and congratulations to our May Outstanding MCSD employees. Next on the agenda is School Board Recognition Month. And Jerry, I think you might know something about that.
I do. At each of our board members' seats, there is a certificate that is by far not enough to represent the gratitude that our school family and our community has for our school board members. You oversee $68 million budget, 10 buildings, 5,000 students, well over 1,000 employees. You have put yourselves out there to run for an office that does not have compensation, but it does have its own rewards. And I really, on behalf of all of us, we just really appreciate the fact that you're here doing everything you can that helps our schools, our kids, our community. And just as a note of service, Tammy Drawbaugh is in her 12th year of service with the board. Tim Bauer is in his 10th year of service. Mary Wildermuth and Nathan Mather are in their 7th year of service. John DeBeat and Aaron Finn are in their 3rd year of service. And Toby McCarter, you're still on the all-rookie team, but the newest member with 1 year of service. And again, we all just really thank you for the contributions you're making to our children's future.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Next on our agenda is our Citizen Speaks portion of the agenda. This is where if we have an audience member, a community member that would like to approach the board, you may do so. We would ask that you step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please know that per board policy, we are not able to respond to your comments during the meeting. You're always welcome to grab a board member before or after a meeting, and contact information is also posted on the district website. And nobody's moving. All right. Next on our agenda is our board targets and goals report. And Jerry, I think you have a guest to introduce
We
to
do.
us.
You know, often I will give a report, and there's a reprieve tonight. We have Mr. Dan Stein is here. Dan has been working on a project in our elementary schools to enhance math proficiency, and he's going to share a little bit about that and about an activity that about 2 weeks ago at the Merrill Hotel involved our students in a math competition, and I was so grateful when I was there that there was not audience participation, because I was very intimidated by the speed of our students' capacity to do the math. But Dan, thank you for coming tonight and sharing this very exciting project.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reeby. It's a pleasure to be here. I know most of you guys from around town. I wear quite a few hats, but tonight we're talking about Count Fast, and real excited about this project. What is Count Fast? We are basically doing mental calculation. As Mr. Othmer talked about, his students pointed out, he likes the mental calculation. So versus using calculators for everything, this is products and techniques and curriculum to work on the mental exercises of math. So basically what it is, it's not new concepts or teaching methods. I call it supplemental curriculum. So this isn't looking to replace the entire math curriculum, but it's a supplement that can be used with the students. Basically, the techniques and tools a lot of them are from Asia. If you look at the top scoring kids in math, you know, Singapore, South Korea, India. So some of the tools that they're using, we've kind of made them Western style and brought them here to Muscatine. So basically it's developed to help with improve the mental math skills of the students, quick and easy tricks that help build upon prior knowledge and build the confidence of the students. So basically, what have we done in Muscatine so far? Because this was an idea and not a tested concept, we wanted to start small. So we worked with Mrs. Witchers and Dr. Reeby and started back in November a trial with 2 fifth grade classes at Grant School. So it was just a 10-day trial where we took in the tools that we have, got them in the hands of the students, got the physical cards in the hands of the students. They could take them home with their families and practice at home. And then we had a quick tournament at the end of the 10-week process, and the feedback was very positive. We did a pre-test and a post-test looking at performance, but also engagement, and the results were pretty good. So that gave us enough confidence to go to the next step. So we came back this spring, I guess it was, just recently, and we were allowed to conduct a second trial, but this time in all the fifth grade classes in the Muscatine Community School District. So it was a 3-week trial where, again, we gave them the tools and the flashcards, turned it over to the teaching staff, and they ran the program on their own. And again, it was very successful. It culminated, we had a citywide math tournament on April 28th at the Merrill Hotel. So each fifth grade class picked the top 3 students in their class. They came to the Merrill, and then we had, you know, class versus class competition to arrive at an overall winner. So this is a picture of the tournament. This was on April 28th. It was really cool to see because there are 45 kids participating, and I think there were about 150 adults. So most kids came with either both parents or a grandparent or a sibling. So it was really cool to see everybody involved in it. We do have the winning team here tonight. Laura McDonald is a 5th grade teacher at Mulberry Elementary, and we have 2 of the winning of the 3. Are all 3 here? Oh, he made it. Good. All right, so all 3 of the winners are here. We're going to bring them up in just a second. But one thing we're going to work as we move forward, you know, versus just having the top students in each class come to the tournament, we're going to find out a way to handicap the students like golf. So like if there's a top tier and a middle tier and a third tier, we're going to go ahead and match them up against each other. That way, because our goal is to lift the whole class, not just the top students that, you know, typically rise to the top in any scenario. So we'll have them come up in just a second. This is Mrs. McDonald. Her class, for motivation, she said that she would wear a ball gown to school if they won, and then they went out and won it. So there she is, looking good in that gown. There are other prizes. So in terms of community engagement, we're trying to get other parts of the community on board. We had a lot of sponsors for the tournament that gave prizes. Every kid that was involved got a prize. And we're trying to spread this throughout the community, so it's kind of an exciting thing to talk about and get kids excited about math. So the benefits as we see them, at the end of the day, it's about performance. So does a kid, if they go through these drills and routines, do they actually improve their math? That's, to me, kind of where the rubber meets the road. But another important thing is engagement. Do students that typically shy away from math give this a try? Within the students talking to each other in the classroom, are they excited when they're doing these activities? Is there talk about these activities, outside of the classroom? We think we're accomplishing that. Changed attitudes about math. Again, we're trying to make math, it's cool to be good at math. If you know a math trick that maybe your teammate doesn't know or another student doesn't know, it's a way to differentiate yourself and stand out in a crowd. And then really what we're trying to do too is increase parental involvement. So I have a 4th grader, 2nd grader, and a preschooler in the district, and they come home with their their spelling words each week. So they got the list on Monday, you practice all week, and then Friday they take the test. But do we have something like this for math? That's where our program each week will get a different set of flashcards for each kid in the program. So we'll talk about what we're proposing here at the end. But each kid would go home with a pack of cards on Monday, practice them for 10 to 15 minutes a night with a family member, sibling, whatever. And then, again, on Friday, we would test and recap and see how the progress is going. So similar to spelling test, this would be for math. And we think if we get the products home, it's something to talk about with their family members, something to play over the table, and really get the engagement going. So that's the goal. So what are we trying to do here for 2018-2019? We are proposing to put this into the 1st through 5th grade classes starting in September. It would basically be a 9-week program. We'd have a particular curriculum for each grade. So 1st grade would be very different than 5th grade and all the way through the grades. Basically, each student, as I said, will be given the flashcards weekly to take home with a new concept. And then we will do these tournaments at the end for each grade level where we have a math tournament to show everybody what they learned. They can show off to their family members. We are hopeful that, because this is still a test or a new concept, we really haven't proved the data in terms of performance. We're hopeful that if we go in this fall and get this in all the classrooms, that we can hopefully see some kind of uptick on the math assessment portion of the Iowa assessment. So that's our goal. Basically, the program is fairly easy for teachers to facilitate. We will have grade level teaching guides provided to each teacher. It won't take more than 15 minutes a day. I didn't realize this as a parent or a community member, but the teachers are, they're worried about time. There's a lot of stuff to teach. So this is a quick one, 15 minutes a day that can be a supplement to the core curriculum. It's a fast way to boost mental, math, computational skills, and really the confidence of the kids. That's the thing that we saw the most is when they got some of these core skills, their confidence really increased. So that's my portion of the speech. I want to thank you for letting me be here. We're excited to get this program out and about what it could potentially do for Muscatine, put us on the map in terms of our math abilities down here. And I want to bring up the winning team and Mrs. McDonald, if you want to come up. Besides just hearing me speak, I thought it was important to have a teacher here that Mrs. McDonald could speak about what you thought of the program, and then each of the kids can introduce themselves. While you're speaking, I'm going to hand around a flashcard of one of the games within the program called the 24 game. I'll hand it to each of you just so you can look at it, and then we'll see if these kids can get a couple of them real quick to show off here.
I have sweaty palms, Dan, at the thought that you're passing them out.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. This is your Muscatine winning team. I am thrilled that they are in my class. They're a wonderful group to teach. All of our Muscatine students have been wonderful this year. This is my first year in Muscatine, so I appreciate being here, and I've really enjoyed it. As far as the Count Fast materials go, I was pretty impressed as a math teacher that the materials were designed in a way that students could actually see hints of strategies that they could use to be successful in doing these mental calculations right there on the game cards, and that they were color-coded to match the different strategies that would work with creating the patterns that they would need to be successful at this game. The other thing that I noticed as a teacher is that, this isn't a digital game, so you always have to wonder about the engagement of the students. And I was really pleasantly surprised that the students absolutely loved to collaborate with each other and compete against each other, but also with each other using these materials. And all of the students, and I think you guys would agree with me, all of the students, not just our high-achieving math students, seem to really grow with this program. And like Mr. Stein said, I saw a lot of confidence grow with students who wouldn't normally have a confidence in math. Once they started learning strategies and some of these mental math tricks to calculate quickly, they started to realize, I can do this. I can do this just as fast as other people can. And I think all of our students, we had some surprising students in our class that stepped up, and I thought this is going to be anybody's ball game. It's not just going to be our top math students that could win in our classroom. Everybody had an equal chance because the strategies were working and they were making sense to the students. As a teacher, I will say that there's just not enough time in any day to teach fact fluency and mental calculation to the level that we would like to teach it. I'm excited that these materials are going to be made all the way down to first grade so that it can begin down in the lower grades. I think 15 minutes a day is absolutely doable for any teacher to work on fact fluency and mental calculation, and it's only going to help our students. I don't see any downsides to this as a teacher. The kids were excited about it. I certainly enjoyed watching them be successful and learn strategies. I enjoyed hearing their stories of going home and competing against parents and grandparents who just couldn't keep up with them, and how much fun that was, and it certainly boosted their confidence and self-esteem. And if I have to wear a ball gown as a payment for that success, I will do so any day. So it was certainly an enjoyable and rewarding experience, and I hope Muscatine will continue to invest in this program.
Let's meet the champions quick. Come up and say your name.
I am Estella Perales Bland.
Hi, I'm Kate Olson.
And I am Matthew Spees.
So these are your champions. So real quick, guys, if anyone wants to get out their cell phone and race, now's the time to get out your calculator. What's 52 times 11? Get up there and say it.
572.
That's pretty good. What is 84 times 5? Get up there.
420.
That's correct. So this is just a glimpse of like some of the stuff these kids can do. We didn't prearrange this. Also, the 24 game, just if you're wondering, basically you use one of the numbers one time. You can use addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, and it'll always get to 24. There's multiple ways to do most of the cards. But, I mean, these kids are amazing. Let's see if anyone can get this one real quick.
Is that a 9 or a 6?
That's a 6.
Got it.
How do you do it?
6 minus 3.
Talk into here.
6 minus 3 is 3. 3 times 6 is, nope.
6 times 6, oh, no.
Get up here.
Okay.
Oh.
3 minus 1 equals 2. 6 minus 2 equals 4. 6 times 4 equals 24.
Good job. So basically, all the drills we do are the core math fundamentals, and you keep progressing. If you want to be a champion in this, you got to do the core to get there. And at the first, second grade levels, it'll be more about, learning patterns of the numbers, adding 1 or minus 1, so more basic things. But really, we're trying to get people to get a feel for the numbers, feel for the combinations that can work. And so hopefully we'll roll this out this fall and take over the whole state in terms of math leadership. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
And the competition was really exciting because at the end of regulation, we had a tie. Mulberry and Jefferson were tied for the, and they went into, I don't want to say sudden death, but another round.
It was intense.
And it was really, really exciting.
Thank you.
Can I ask quite, where did you, I mean, how do you fit, where did this come up? I mean, why did somebody decide?
So I travel quite a bit, and I have some friends over in Asia that are really good at math. And, you know, we usually do the 12 times 12 math table, and this guy had 100 times 100. It was like a chart like this. And on the chart in yellow, he had highlighted all the things that can be done with mental calculation, and it's like 75% of the chart.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow. And so then he started telling me about the 24 game, and I brought that back and played with my 4th grader, and he was into it. I mean, we were in the car, and he was just loving it. So I was like, we should try to do this. So.
Will that work with any combination of numbers?
Almost, not every single but if you guys are looking at license plates when you're on a road trip, if there's 4 numbers, you can probably play the game just off the license plate. In Asia, they play with a deck of cards, so and you count the joker as an 11, and the rest is 10s. So
that's a great idea, Dan. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's just like getting the students at a very early age to think about numbers and different combinations to come up with. In this case, 24 is a great way to get them to love math too, because that's, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to the students. We always appreciate seeing students when they come. So thank you for coming tonight and sharing your champion winnings with us. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Next on our agenda are under action, possible action items are, the following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. Those items are minutes, employment recommendations, bills and claims, and student teaching agreements. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda then is the third and final reading on the policy 401.5 for family and medical leave. This is a new policy. This is our, as the agenda states, we've seen it 2 other times previously. I would entertain a motion of the board. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the third and final reading of the Family and Medical Leave Act. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda, probably one of my most favorite things that we get to do every year, is to approve the tentative list of graduates for the class of 2018. A few of them are sitting in the audience. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll move that we approve the tentative list of graduates for the class of 2018 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the tentative list of graduates for the class of 2018. Is there any discussion?
It is the most important thing we do, so glad it's happening.
Keep holding your breath. We haven't voted yet, for those of you in the audience that need it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And nay? And it carries. The next item on our agenda is the recommended salary adjustment for our administrators and non-union classified professionals to follow the Chapter 20 guidelines as of May 1st. And we have a 1.75% amount. Jerry or Tom, do either one of you have some more commentary for us?
Well, this is the model we used last year, the new collective bargaining law. Uses an inflation index to set the increase for when you're doing collective bargaining. And so, I guess in kind of holding to that model, for those employees that are not covered under a union contract, we would their salary increase would be 1.75%, which is based on the inflation index for this month of May.
Okay.
So that's not something that's required by law, it's just we're
It's
giving
just,
them the same.
you know what, it's not, and what, the reason I had recommended it last year is you have to have some model to use, and it seemed like that was as good a model as anything, and it also stayed then along with the same pace that the union contracts would typically be going, so.
Makes sense.
What are the wishes of the board on that item?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommended salary adjustment as laid out under item H in your agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item is to approve the collective bargaining agreements between the Muscatine Community School District and the local 1560 Council of AFSCME for the secretarial, clerical aid and para-educator unit, bus driver unit, food service unit, and custodial maintenance unit. I'm not sure if that's a complete sentence or not, but I got through it.
It will be tonight. These were completed in a very, very amicable, and I don't know if any of them took more than an hour. Very collaborative in nature. Again, the secretarial, clerical aid, para group, bus driver group, and custodial maintenance group all settled at the 1.75. Food service came in at 2%, but partly because their wages have typically been less, that it affected only by a few pennies to get them to a position that was similar to where the others were for increase. So theirs was at 2%. They're also not a general fund expenditure. They come out of the enterprise fund. I really appreciate the cooperation that that our union folks and the state union representatives showed. It was a very, very respectful meeting, and I think everyone walked away from the table feeling like we did the very best we could for everyone concerned.
What are the wishes?
And I should say they've also, these have been approved by the union groups, so it's now for the board for the board to accept or not.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve item I as stated.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the collective bargaining agreements as presented in the agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Next on our agenda is our PEPL expenditures. And I think that we have some additional, I can't say artifacts in the audience. We have some additional information coming forth, I think, in the audience. And Jerry, I'll let you make those introductions.
We do. We do have, each of these items have been budgeted for in our PEPL expenditures. By policy, if it's in the budget, if it's an approved budget, there's the capacity to that's the authorization to spend it. We haven't in the past, when you've approved the general fund budget, we haven't really taken another action to approve the PEPL budget, which we may want to consider next year when we do that, because then we wouldn't have to go through these at a later point in time. But when we went back and looked at how the budget was presented, I felt like in interest of transparency, it was best if we go through these. So we've had some conversation about instrument replacement, and we have talked everything from a 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, 1-year replacement schedule. And Mr. Hyde is here representing the music department. He is a noteworthy teacher. I've been wanting to say that, Jeff, for some time. Feel free to use that at any time. I haven't copywritten that. But what the music people have, and this is really a K-12 music proposal. This is not just secondary instruments or secondary orchestra or anything like this. This will affect almost every kid in our school system. And so, Mr. Wright, I'm gonna turn the mic over to you because I think you have some compelling thoughts about why we may want to look at a quicker replacement schedule.
Well, I do, and that's actually part of the reason you asked me to come here and explain our stance from the music department's position. When we started this all, just so you understand, we started this back in, I think, November. West Music came in where they were very generous. We asked the local companies if they could help us out with doing a quick inventory, and they came in and completely inventoried all of the instruments, figured out what needed to be done for repairs on them, and gave us a total as well as recommendations for replacement. And so they were kind enough to create these pamphlets for you tonight. So yes, there is some extra information on the back, a couple pages from West Music, supporting their position to be a final company for you. That will, they've been advised a number of times that this will have to go out to bid. But so that little extra stuff is just for your general perusal later. The things that I wanted you to take a look at are on the second page and the third page, mostly. The first page is, sorry, let me get to the right page. The second page, or inside the cover, Muscatine Instrumental Evaluation. They went through all of our instruments and they tallied them up and figured out the average ages. We do have instruments. We had, I believe, a 95-year-old baritone in the high school band department. So we have instruments that are quite old.
Experienced.
Yes, very, very experienced, and they've seen a lot of music, but it's maybe time for them to take a break. So they were kind enough to give us the average age, the average cost to repair all of those instruments. Instruments that need an immediate replacement, which is 312. The number of pianos in the district is 11. You'll notice that the average piano age is 44 years old, and that again is another little tidbit of information. We haven't been replacing pianos and buying pianos every year like we should, and so we've fallen behind, and that's kind of what's happened. We've fallen behind in supporting the instrument replacement at the different levels. If you look at the middle schools, they have a number of instruments that are held together by duct tape, and that's not boding well for the students that are trying to play them. I'm sure you can imagine what that's like, playing on an instrument that has air leaks and you have to cover it with duct tape. It doesn't give you much pride. So the kids are doing the best they can, the teachers are doing the best they can, and we are replacing what we can with the help of a lot of different community members and community organizations. But with your help, we can make this a much broader and heavy impact situation. One of the reasons we would like to see this done right away is that next sample instrument appreciation schedule. When this was first talked about, we were told it would probably be a 5-year, and then it was suggested 3 years. And when I heard that it was 3 years, I came in to Dr. Reby and asked that he consider pushing for a lease program. And the reason I did that is because if we do a lease program, it was an instant, we get everything, and it costs the board 7% a year. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, it's also cost 7% a year more to buy the instruments each year on average. And that's kind of a sampling there of what the instrument prices appreciate from year to year. And they were kind enough to pull some of the instruments that we've had on the list and give you a sampling of what they cost in 2015 versus what their anticipated cost is in 2020. And one of the things that worries us is we don't know what's going on with the trade situation, and we don't know how that's going to affect the metals and the cost of getting the instruments from China and Japan, which is where many of these instruments actually get made and come from. So when we are starting to talk about appreciation, 7% could be a very low number in another year or two. So that's where we are looking at this information and saying, we would like you to consider making the purchase faster, because if you make the purchase faster, you can affect the students more. And I guess from our perspective, we are going to do the best we can to choose the best layout of instruments to reach the most students in a timely manner. But if we spend, in this case, as I've been told tonight, half now and half in another year, we would have to split that purchase up so that we can't affect all of the K through 5 music. We could only probably affect half of them. We can't get all of the instruments that we might need at the high school. We can get half of them. That means that some of the students will have to wait. And we will try to get as many of the students new, better equipment as we can, and make sure the money is spent in a wise manner, because we're very, very grateful for the support. Please don't misread that. But what we would like to see is the most impact for your dollars. And if you purchase everything now, then what happens is we don't have to lose 7% of our purchase power in another year, which is what we can anticipate happening. So if we spend $500,000 now, next year we will probably have to cut a small amount of the instruments that we want to get to fit under the $500,000 in a year.
Mr. Hyde, is there also, with a large purchase, are they giving a bigger discount?
Oh yes, that's part of this. We actually have a better discount with the larger purchase. The West Music actually has gone to different companies and made arrangements to get these prices down. That said, we also have a couple other things to consider. Do you go with one single company with this purchase? This is a very large purchase, and they are having to meet a large set of parameters, meaning we're not just buying band instruments, we're also buying orchestra instruments, and we're buying equipment for pianos. So pianos alone can be their own little entity. So something that might want to be considered is, can we get a better deal by breaking the bids up and having the band instruments be bid separately from the string instruments and the pianos, and then the stage equipment that is needed separately as well. And I know that the finance department is probably going, oh, please no, I just want to write one check. But from our perspective, we would like to see the best price offered with the best service offered. So we want to make sure that the instruments are brought in and they're serviced right away before they are put in the students' hands, so we don't have students getting a defective instrument and then we're having to deal with a company someplace else to fix it. We want good customer service. We want them to take all the packing material away. We don't want to have to deal with our own boxes here. We have enough boxes to take care of. We also we want them to take care of the instruments long term. And, granted, if we buy from a warehouse, but what we'll have to do for something this large, if we want to pay once or with one bid, I guess how you'd want to put it, you are also going to have to deal with a company that West can do it, but it may not be West that wins, because you might have somebody in Indiana that has a better price, and we may want to consider that. The thing with working with a local company or a series of local companies is we do keep our money locally mostly, which also benefits us.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Am I understanding you that you are recommending that we get everything in one shot?
Yes.
That's what you are
because
recommending.
if you wait a year, then the price of the instruments we didn't buy this year will go up by 7%, roughly. Some will be, as you can see, a Yamaha soprano sax, which actually I can tell you the Yamaha soprano sax won't be a first-year purchase. It'll be a second-year purchase for us. And that goes up by 8% in another year.
What will be the time limit to take care of almost $1 million in new instrument and put them in the right place, classify them, and do whatever you have to do with it to have them ready for
the concern is how do we inventory all of that?
Yeah.
The one thing that I also want to make sure we do is when we ask for the bids, that whoever comes in has to help us with that. I want that to be part of the expectations of any company that services that, which would be why I'd also encourage you to consider splitting it into a number of smaller bids, because then we can kind of put that out there, and you've got Griggs and West that can service and can come in and assist with the inventorying and assist with tagging and assist with putting things where they belong. And you also have like Schultz Strings that can also do the same with the orchestra instruments. So they'll help us, rather than the last thing we want is a company that says, here's your truck, unload it.
But But if we break it into different suppliers, in this case, we will lose that big discount that we might get
Possibly
if we get
not.
it from.
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know that. I'm not
And
trying
I'm
to,
just asking,
not
I
trying
don't know
to,
myself.
I'm not trying to blow any smoke. I don't know what the better way is. I can tell you West Music has gone to the different manufacturers. They even just informed me today that they've made arrangements with Stage Right to get what we want, which they had not been a Stage Right dealer until today. But we said we didn't want Wenger, we want Stage Right because we like their platforms better. We like their chairs at Wenger, we like their stands maybe at Wenger, but we don't like their staging. So West went and worked out a deal with Stage Right that they can supply the exact equipment we want. So yes, we do have a company that is local, that is working very hard to provide exactly what we want. And maybe they'll win the bid and that's how you want to handle it. But we are also looking at, we have other companies such as Schultz Strings and Griggs. Griggs doesn't offer pianos. We would be essentially excluding Griggs from the bid. And they might be able to meet or beat the West price. How do you decide that? I don't know. You guys are smarter than me. I need you guys to say, well, this is how we're going to handle it because this is the best way. I'm just throwing these ideas out there in case you think you can get a better deal.
One of we often use the term bid, but really what we're doing is comparative pricing, because really bidding is for capital, construction type of things. So, what we would by statute have to get comparative prices, but it's not really like a bid where it's a sealed bid and that type of thing. So we can certainly look at all those kinds of parameters and those kind of things.
That may not be a discussion for tonight. I don't know.
Well,
that may not even have needed to be said. But
a couple of things I just wanted to emphasize that I really, Mr. Hyde, really appreciate this information. A couple of things that really stand out to me is the average age of our band and orchestra instruments are 37 years old. And the other thing that stands out is that over half of them are being recommended to be replaced immediately.
Yes.
And over half of 8 of the 11 pianos are fair or poor condition.
Yes.
And I know from quite a few years in this business, we often get folks that say, I have a piano you can have. And while we greatly appreciate that, school pianos get moved a lot. And pianos that are made for your home are not constructed in the same fashion, and legs get wobbly, and parts don't quite hang together like we do.
We actually did recently take one in that we thought was going to be strong enough, and it collapsed as it was going through a doorway, and that's dangerous for us because we don't want a student to hurt because we got something that wasn't right. So that is one thing that is also worth pointing out. The instruments that are in this information that we have are going to be solid instruments that are going to last a long time. We are picking instruments that are in our world tanks in some cases. So the middle school and high school kids will get them, and they can use them, they can march with them. They're not going to give up on the first year. And if they do give up on the first year, I would like a company that will service that and make it right. I want good customer service. I don't want somebody that says, well, you bought it, you're done. So that's stuff for us to consider too. One of the things that I want to point out is if you do it in half and half, you will probably touch a little over half the students in the district. If you do it all at once, you're going to touch every K through 5 kid, every student that is in 6th, 7th, 8th grade playing a wind instrument or a percussion, especially percussion, by the way, because they've been getting our hand-me-downs from the high school as we've been buying new stuff, and that's not always great. You'll be hitting every high school student that is in music of some sort, every student in the middle school that is in music of some sort. So your impact will be maximized by spending it right away, and I know that's a big ask.
Of these instruments, obviously a lot of them need to be replaced. Any idea what number or percentage that we could retain that would be useful for another whatever? And then what happens to used instruments? What happens to old instruments when they're
We are
100
actually
years old?
hoping to, if West Music will get, or whoever, I shouldn't say West Music, whoever we get, we hope will buy back some of them to maybe save us some money or allow us to spend some of that money on repairs. We are also hoping, if they can't do it, there is a company called Middleton Instrument something. I can't remember the name of it. It's a company that'll come down from Wisconsin, will catalog the instruments you want get rid of and write a check to the district, if that's allowed. I don't know the rules. So we have some ability to. We certainly don't want them sitting around. Our middle school teachers have asked if there would be a possibility the district would be willing to sell some of the instruments to local parents, because sometimes, even though the instrument is in disrepair for us, it might have a year or two left that it could serve a middle school student to keep them going, like a clarinet, so that they could actually have an instrument at home to practice on. So that was an option that was asked whether it could be considered. That would be, again, something for, I guess, finance department to direct us on where we can go with that stuff, or you, I don't know. Again, you're smarter than me, so I'm just here to give you the facts about what I know here. I don't know about the finance aspect. So,
Jeff, a couple questions. First, do you have any idea what kind of trade-in or buyback value these have? I mean, are we talking pennies on the dollar?
Pennies on the dollar. Most of the instruments that we would be getting rid of, like I said, are duct taped together, or we have the 95-year-old baritone that you would like to think that at 95 years old it would be worth something. It's not. Applebee's would enjoy it more than us, I think.
Nice. And what kind of, I guess, life expectancy, and I know each instrument is probably different, but what kind of life expectancy does a new instrument have? And do these firms typically offer warranties of any kind?
These all should come with the standard manufacturer warranty, but that's also part of the reason I was suggesting maybe it might be worth considering breaking them up, because it's my understanding that somebody like Schultz Strings has offered to service for up to 5 years on strings. So you're talking about a 5-year warranty from one company, depending on if you go with them. So some of them can offer a little bit better. There is information in the back. That's part of the West Music's propaganda back there. Timely repair service. They did tell me that they threw in something. Within the first year, all brass, woodwind, string, and percussion instruments will qualify for a one-time free playing adjustment, which would be very, very beneficial. Accommodates for the break-in period and anything that might have broken in the first year, that they can just automatically take care of it. They'll just come through, basically. Now, I'm not saying that West is the company that has to do that, but that's what one of the things they're offering. They will offer the typical. I think it's a 3 or 5 year guaranteed warranty on most instruments now. As far as longevity, every instrument, as you know, is different. But when you think about the fact that we have instruments that are 95 years old that we have still used on occasion, depending on how well we care for them, they should last a long time. Is it going to be that you need to spend money again in 20 years? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say 20, but we will need to also in the future put some sort of plan in place to invest again on a regular basis so we don't have this happen again. We need to be having a setup so that we can buy pianos every year, so that we can rotate pianos out of the district too. And when we do that, then all of a sudden we don't have this situation arise where we're going, what do we do? This is an embarrassment to our students. And you know, we have students that are phenomenal musicians who are doing amazing things on not all mediocre. We have some great instruments, don't get me wrong. I've worked very hard, and so have the other teachers, to get some great things for us. But if you think about how much they've done, our jazz ensemble, for the first time ever, went to jazz championships this year. They play on a piano that has a cracked soundboard. That's the daily rehearsal piano. That's the best option they have. They were playing on a bass amp that isn't sounding right because we spent 2 months trying to figure out what to do and how to fix it, and couldn't fix it because it was going to cost twice as much as a new one. So we had to buy a new one. You know, we're hobbling things along on instruments, and they're still achieving. And I'm not going to say that putting all new instruments in their hands is going to suddenly get us first place at things. It's still on the students. But it certainly is a lot easier for the students to achieve high when they're supported and they feel supported. And I do know, I don't want you to think they don't, when they found out that you were even considering this, you should have seen the lights go on. It meant tons to them. The fact that you were thinking about spending anything over 5 years was important to them. When it went to 3 was important to them. They don't know that you've apparently gotten to, well, all are 2 years now, because even I didn't know that until I walked in tonight. So you need to be aware that the kids appreciate even the thought of spending the money and supporting them. And that's what you need to know. It's not going to be overlooked. It's going to be valued all the way through the district, and it's going to hit a large percentage of your students across the district. It's a very big deal to us, and we are very thankful for even the consideration.
What percentage of the kids roughly that are in the programs 5 up have school-owned versus their own instruments?
At this point,
is it decreasing?
It's increasing. We are every year handing out more instruments. Every year we have students that we have to turn away because we don't have enough instruments for them. That's the thing. We actually are growing in size at the high school, even though we have to hobble things together. It's partly thanks to community members that have donated clarinets that they had in their closets so we could give instruments out. The problem with that is we don't always have the instrument that the kids should play on, so they have to play something else. Sometimes we don't have the instrument that we need covered because we just can't afford to go buy it. So we put them somewhere else. And sometimes that discourages them and they quit. Sometimes that, playing on the instrument that is not working completely is enough reason for them to say, I'm done. I'll go do something else. Those video games look really good because at least the buttons still work.
Jeff, on the 11 pianos, does that include the baby grands?
Yes. And we would be replacing one baby grand at the high school, and we were replacing the baby grand at Central, is what the plan was.
As a parent who's bought stringed instruments and brass instruments and woodwind instruments, I would say I think it would be wise for us to look at pricing out the string instruments as an option. It's a different animal. Not that one of these local vendors could not do both, but
I guarantee Wes can do it, but I also know Griggs can do it, so can Schultz Strings, and they all three have benefits of their own.
Yeah.
And so you may, I'm not saying you will, you may find it beneficial to make that a separate entity. Again, I'm not the financial guru. I'm just giving you, this may be a good option for you.
Okay. And as far as you had mentioned a lease, but really there would not be, I would not recommend we look at a lease. We have the capacity to handle this within our funds that we would not need to go that route.
Did Wes give any indication what their turnaround time would be? Should it be awarded to them? I mean, in reality, how quickly can they procure and deliver?
In reality, it will probably take most of the year. One of the things that we also have talked to them about doing is instead of getting all of the percussion equipment right away, waiting until after All-State. Because if we wait till after All-State, we can get a further discount because they will outfit the choir or the orchestra and the band at All-State with whatever we say we want, and then when we're done, we load it and take it home. and they'll give us a discount because it's used instruments. You see how that works?
Will they do the same thing with pianos?
Never know. I didn't ask that. That's a good question.
Pianos are expensive to move across the state of Iowa for
Well,
all
that's
states,
true, but
so-
you know, they're already moving them there, aren't
Well,
they?
that's right.
My bet is that they use the pianos from Iowa State University, so we probably can't get that, but there's
Well,
nothing
their
wrong with
solo
asking that
ensemble
question.
contest
Yeah,
would
some
be
of
the
the
other
competitions.
would be the other time when they're
it's
moving
worth
all around.
asking the question and seeing what we get from them, because there are clavinovas on that list, and so that might be where we wait until April to get the pianos from solo contest, because West does service the pianos for Davenport West High School. So, so there are ways for us to save a little bit. It will take us a little time. We do know that there are some instruments on the list that are on 6-month waiting periods. In fact, there's a bass trombone that I had on the list that was an 18-month waiting period, and I had to cut it because it's an 18-month waiting period, and I don't want to wait 18 months to get that trombone. I want it in somebody's hands sooner. So there are some challenges with getting. We won't get a semi-load in April or in
the Wells
August.
Fargo wagon isn't going to come to town.
No, that's exactly right. There's no Wells Fargo wagon for this. We're not going to be able to say that we want this and it's all going to roll in, and that is a point to consider. We're not going to be dealing with this all in one shot. It's going to come in throughout the entire year. And sorry, finance. You might not.
Which
like
is
knowing
actually
that.
a benefit.
Oh, okay.
Because
Then
really,
that's good.
to have all this come in at one time would be something of a nightmare.
Yeah, well, that for us too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that may be part of the process as far as who can secure product the most efficiently or effectively. Along with, the service agreement, I think, is also really important for you because somehow I accidentally just dropped my sousaphone. Don't exactly know how that happened. Not that I've ever seen that happen, but it might happen.
Once or twice a year.
Yep.
So, Mr. Hyde, the request from the music department is $983,173.
I believe that is correct. Based on the prices from West Music.
So it could be less.
Could be if we can work something out.
magic.
It could be a little bit higher. We understand that you have at this point spoken of $1 million cutoff, and we will have to stay under that. So we will understand that, and we will adhere to that strictly. We would like to hit that number or less that you see.
About 12% of the request here is for classroom furniture and general music. What can you tell us about those?
The classroom furniture would be chairs for the choir, which right now they're using some chairs that we dug out of the orchestra pit from the auditorium for that was being used for the musical, and they're not really made for daily use. Some of it is the stage right equipment, such as their platform staging for show choir. And you really can't, they're music related, but yes, it is furniture. And they're very expensive. They're about $20,000 for a set of 16, I think is what they come in. They're designed for the show choirs, and they're asking for one set for each building. Okay. And we currently have Wenger, which if you, how stable is that stage that you sit on for graduation? That's Wenger.
We hope it's real stable.
Not that there's anything wrong with that product, just to make that comment. It's a fine product, and we have great confidence in it.
I love Wenger equipment for a lot of things. I don't love them for their staging because their legs come out, and you literally, to put them together, you put the leg in, you clamp it into place.
It's okay, Toby.
Jerry, what's this injury waiver you've got in front of us to sign?
I'm sorry. What?
Oh no!
And that represents the opinion of Mr. Jeff Hyde and not the Muscatine Community School.
Yes, that is.
We'll try and have that runner along the bottom of the screen.
Well, given that we got furniture and music there, I wonder if that is legal to do under Pebble. It is. So you can do furniture?
Well, we are, that's the other
buildings.
issue. We're looking at classroom furniture.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah.
and music too? I mean, is
Yeah.
that like sheet music or what is general music?
I don't, you're talking about the curriculum, I believe, for the K through 6.
And that would not be a PEPAL expense.
Okay, so that would have to come out.
That would have to come out of general fund.
Okay, so the general music would be 64.9. Well, look at that. We've already lowered the price.
Yeah, that would need to come from some other fund. So you're at, whatever that 920 or 920-ish.
Get those kids back. They can figure it out.
There you go. Exactly. Just a second. I've got my card here.
That's right.
So considering the whole list of expenditures here, putting 983 here, we have the capacity to do that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure of $920,000.
I'm sorry, I
believe it's 920. What was that?
Yeah, whatever that.
You weren't listening?
Yeah.
Whatever the math is there, $920,000 for the purchase of music equipment for the Muscatine Community School District.
Did you want
So
to say a time
just
frame
so
on
a clarification.
1 year time frame.
That is not to exceed 920. Whatever that amount would be.
Whatever that is, yes.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make
my math skill. The CF24 was getting close to 920,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do we need to know what that is? All right, so there is a motion on the floor to spend the 983,173 minus the 64.9.
That's another way to say it.
Yes.
Since I don't know the exact number and the kids aren't here. Over a period of, you're looking for an all at once and a one-time purchase.
Yes.
So in that first year. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the purchase, a one-time purchase of 983,173 minus 64,926. Is there any other discussion?
I've got an issue with, it sounds like we've got, 40, 50% of our instruments that need immediate replacement. I'm all for replacing those immediately. That being said, that necessarily means that we've got instruments that are in decent shape, that we're not going to get much of any trade-in value on, and that we'd basically be throwing away. Or get.
No, I don't think so.
Keeping those.
No, we're not getting rid of everything we have. We're keeping a large.
So how many instruments would this 900 and whatever purchase replacements for all 738 instruments? Or how many instruments would we be getting for our buck here?
You would be getting,
Maybe I'm not understanding because what it sounds like to me is you're saying get everything all new.
No.
No.
No, we are not replacing everything we own. Oh dear, no.
Okay, so how
we
many
have a lot
would
of
we be
equipment that is in great shape that we are keeping.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of.
No, this is replacements of instruments that need to be replaced.
So
That's
this is
what
the
we're
312?
replacing. And I believe that is the 312.
So
we have a very large number of instruments. Well, I shouldn't say that we're just replacing. We have no mallet equipment at the middle schools, which this is going to put that equipment there.
Okay.
That's part of what the deal was. They don't have the instruments to actually teach on, and we've been passing things on, but we can't pass them on fast enough when a marimba costs us $10,000.
That was a really good question because it seems like, boy, for that much money, that should take care of everything. But it will just take care of those that are, for the most part, now have their life is run. But there will be a number. I can't even imagine what the total inventory must be that cost the inventory of the music department.
It's outrageous.
It's
I
in the
should
millions.
have that information handy, but I
Obviously, in the
So
millions.
that's about $3,000 per instrument, which, looking at the sample schedule, seems a little high maybe, but I understand there's some bigger ticket items in there.
Oh yes, we have timpani that are like $12,000. We have pianos that are $40,000.
29,000.
So, and I'd have to look up the exact prices. I'm literally throwing numbers off the top of my head, so please don't.
Oh no, that's fine.
Okay. But we are not replacing every instrument we own. No, we are keeping a large number intact. We are increasing the number of instruments we are providing, especially for the students that cannot afford, the free and reduced students. This is not just a replacement. This is actually increasing the ability to help students who need the assistance. So this is also for the student the family that is unable to meet those needs.
So how many more instruments would we be putting into the field here?
I am not certain on that number.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's
I should have had that handy.
This probably next year, when we do go through budget things again, we need to have a conversation about what are we going to start allotting
Every year, right.
Right.
Because we don't want to see the same thing. We don't need it's a lot easier to bite it off one at a time versus $1 million every time it turns around.
Well, and that's the other thing. I think Toby raises a good point. So obviously, if we're keeping the ones that are in good shape, they're going to continue to deteriorate. We're going to need to keep pumping money into it.
Yes, we will have to do repairs.
We'll want a progressive replacement schedule, so we're not replacing them all at one point. What kind of, you threw out, and I know you're just throwing stuff out, like a 20-25 year life, maybe on average, so be looking at about a 4 to 5% overall buy a year to maintain freshness in the instruments.
I can't really answer that honestly. I would. It sounds like a good start.
And I'm not going to hold you
to
anything. I'm just spitballing. Yeah.
But yes, that would probably be an accurate way to put it. What we try to do is we try to look at what do we need to provide to the students most. What's in the most disrepair, and then we actually keep trying to keep the instruments going, but. Our Barry Saxes this year have been in more than they've been in the hands of the kids for repairs. They're just getting weak. The repairs can't be done much more. I don't know that we would need to start anything on a plan in the next 3 or 4 years. I mean, this will take care of a great deal, but probably about year 5 we need to be.
Well, I think we'll want to start putting. I mean, the money can sit there.
Yeah.
But we need to just keep putting money into a fund for that because
about $120 to $150 a year.
That's kind of what I was thinking, somewhere in that range, so that those things can be taken care of, so that it's not a burden at some point.
And I know we're not there yet, but this handy dandy little time chart we've got here with the Pebble cash flow, does that have this 900 and almost $1 million priced in?
Well, it doesn't have the million in. It has that.
What's the amount there?
It has 500,000 per year for the next 2 years.
Okay, so after 2 years, it would be equivalent.
So cash flow wise, since our projects are a little bit are slowed a bit here, we should be in pretty good shape.
Cash flow covers it.
Yeah,
and we'll want to build in probably the 120 to 150.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll want to do next when we do the budget next year.
Right.
We're going to want to include that.
Well, but I mean, we can
somewhere.
add it to this chart so
Either
we can note the cash flow.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then you've reassured me because I was misunderstanding, so I feel a lot better.
Sincerely apologize.
Oh no, it's quite all right.
Is there any other discussion then? There's a motion on the floor. Hearing none, all those in favor of spending I know I lost my number.
918,247.
918,247. Were you using your flashcard for that?
Yes, my flashcard. My iFlashcard.
Good. What was it again? 918.
I think it was 918,247, but let me just double check that. Yeah, 918,247.
Okay. The 918,247 in one purchase or in 1 year time period. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Hopefully we have some music companies starting to sharpen their pencils as we speak.
Very sharp.
Not flat. No pun intended
on that.
That's right. If their forte is in instruments.
You guys are going to get us in trouble.
That fell flat.
Oh. Now you're gonna get us, yeah, that was get us in trouble. Trouble. All right, next.
Trouble.
Next on the agenda is the MHS physical education facility equipment. Easy for me to say.
And if you, I don't know if you folks have been by the building, it's coming up really nicely. And one of the best parts of this building is that it's going up with very few changes. And so I think, Tom, you mentioned we're going to be, we've budgeted $3 million for the project. We should be about $330,000 below that amount.
And then on the capital projects cash flow, there is an extra cushion, if you will, in there of a $400,000 one-time purchase of equipment for that PE center. So the box that shows the MHS PE center remaining of the $3 million, there's 1.9 remaining. And that's about $330,000 more than what is left to pay the contractor and the architect. So
when we started this process, we talked about we were going to need to put some equipment in there, and so somewhere between around that $330,000 to $350,000 seems like would be the appropriate amount. That's kind of falls into what we had budgeted.
Okay. What are the wishes of the board on that item?
I'll move to approve for the purchase of the equipment in that range, $350,000 to $400,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the equipment, which falls in the range of the $350,000 to $400,000. I will say it feels a little odd, right, to give a range. However, knowing that these things have been in our budget, as we talked about earlier, that feels less odd. But if you're watching at home and just we're not kind of willy-nilly spending, but that is the budgeted amount at this point in time. Is there any discussion on that?
Jared, did I hear you right? With even with this, we're still well below the budget.
Well, with this, we would be at budget.
At budget.
Yes. And that's I get a few people in our district give me a hard time about being this advocate for steel buildings, but they do go up. They go up quickly, and there's usually very few change orders with them. And so we've been very fortunate. We've been able to come in under budget with that, and which is good because we'll want to outfit this, and it is going to be just a great facility for our school and for our community. So,
any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the equipment for the MHS physical education building, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And motion carries. The next item is the elementary furniture project. This is targeted at $641,000. Jerry,
yeah, and this is again. This is we had budgeted $600,000. The $41,000 almost really comes to the cost of the shipping, and and that's where that extra is coming in. This is again continuing the project that we began a couple of years ago. It is again something we have budgeted for, but since we again did not really take action when we put the budget together, that it would be we'd have the authority to do it. It again goes back to the transparency of making sure the board's aware and the community's aware that we're getting approval to spend that. So that's, again, that's...
Jerry, do we know what schools are getting that?
Yes, and I'm sure I will get this wrong, but we've got Colorado. Becky, you're going to have to help me out. Mike, Colorado, yeah. Thank you, yes. And we are the elementary that is not going to be finished will be McKinley, because as we're looking at whatever changes we need to make there, it just seemed to make sense to hold off putting furniture in until we decided what needed to be done there. this is a project that has really been received well by teachers, kids, community. Our buildings really look nice. It's a nice statement when they come in. And again, it's a little bit like the music instruments. We didn't have a plan to replacing things other than when a new building was built. And so this allows us to, we'll have all of our buildings in really good shape, but we'll want to start salting a little bit of money away again so that we're not in the spot of having to spend this much money at one time.
I'd like to have the pleasure to move this item forward for elementary furniture project for up to $641,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the elementary furniture project of $641,000. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is computer replacements at $500,000.
And that is what we allot each year for technology replacements. And I asked Scott to come in if he had any specific questions. Last year we replaced, I believe, staff computers, and we are online to replace the Chromebooks, I believe.
Yeah. So in 2015, 2016, we did our first purchase of Chromebooks. And at that point was when we were allotted the $500,000 a year for budgeting for these replacements. So we did middle school, then we did high school, then we did staff. So we're back to middle school again, and actually it's really not middle school, it's that first group of Chromebooks that were purchased because they follow the students. So those are now, this next year will be 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders that'll have that original batch. So those will get replaced. And then our goal is to potentially, wisely, where we can, use some of those Chromebooks that are still in gently used condition to be able to replace some of the aging MacBook Airs that we have at the elementary level.
And as the state assessments and other assessments have gone to online things, this is becoming having a technology that works at the elementary school is no longer a luxury, it's kind of a necessity. Yeah. And the Chromebooks, I think they're, Scott, you said they're about $330, give or take, with the case and the insurance and all that kind of stuff on there.
Yeah, exactly. When we first bought Chromebooks, they were about $225 each. This is before any of the licensing and other things that go along with them. Then the next year when we purchased them at the high school, they dropped to like $214, so maybe a few dollars difference. What we're seeing with Chromebooks is that they're still kind of hovering around that same amount. What we are seeing, though, is that now all those manufacturers, instead of like, they're, of course we all hope that they would just continue getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, but really they've kind of stabilized at that amount. Now they're adding things like touchscreen and convertible that flip. So they're actually increasing the cost on them because they're finding that more people want more features than what the base models offer.
And Scott had made a compelling argument that we have some like iPads and some of those that technology in the elementary that is going to need attention also. As you see, we have a lot of things on our list, and as important as it is, and I know Scott makes every dollar stretch, I think it's really important that we stay within our budgeted amount as we go forward this year.
I'll make a motion to approve up to $500,000 for computer replacements.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the computer replacements of $500,000. Is there any other discussion? Scott, did you say how many laptops that is, roughly?
It's roughly, originally it was $1,350, but of course with declining enrollments and smaller class sizes, even that amount will probably drop somewhere between $1,100 and $1,200 this year.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Next up is transportation purchases. There is an A, B, and C. So it looks like an activity van, a microbus, and propane buses.
And we had some conversation at our work session about those, and asked Don to come in if you had any questions about that. Really, and again, we have $400,000. that we have budgeted in this fiscal year. We have $400,000 budgeted for next fiscal year, so we have $800,000 to work with. Don and Tom are the experts in this and what that money would buy us. So.
Well, we're looking at 8 new propane buses, plus adding a smaller bus in order for us to get down some of the tighter areas in town. And then, of course, the van for a replacement van. And the oldest van will end up being a maintenance van and replacing one of their older vans. The benefits will be felt in the general fund by lowering our fuel costs, our maintenance costs, and also the added benefit of a cleaner environment for the kids, staff, and community.
What do we save each year? Have we got a number in terms of fuel on a propane bus?
The propane buses runs we get about 5.2, a little better. As the drivers learn how to drive them, that's been increasing, 2 miles per gallon. The regular diesel buses would get 7 miles per gallon. I know you're thinking, how are we saving money on that?
Propane's cheaper.
Yes, it is much cheaper. We're at $1, I think it's $1.08 or $1.09 is our bid we had for 3 years, I believe. And then we also get 50 cents back on top of that. So it's cost us about 59 cents a gallon. As the drivers get more experience on these, we've seen the miles per gallon on the propanes come closer to the diesel. I think that'll continue to increase.
What are the wishes of the board?
I'd like to move. I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the transportation purchases.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the transportation purchases. So that's 1 activity van, it's 1 microbus, and then there are 8 propane buses. And as Jerry mentioned, we'd look to spend half of those funds in this fiscal year.
We had half set aside already that we haven't spent, so then the other half comes out, the beginning of the fiscal year is when we have that budgeted. So
that's
and it's
money.
actually like 420 to 444,000. So we have 868 really set aside.
Okay.
So
I see we're purchasing from Lindquist instead of Krieger's. Lindquist is about $900 cheaper, correct?
Yeah, we talked long and hard about that, but I figured that I'd leave that for a board decision on that. I
knew that was the reason it was there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. All right. I always hate buying outside of the Muscatine, especially when they're just up the road about a half a mile. So.
The nice thing is the maintenance can be done at Krieger's, though.
They will take care of the maintenance. Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
And I would just like to reiterate for all those folks at home that are thinking, my goodness, they just spent an awful lot of money. This was all money that was budgeted back last year for these expenditures. It is not, we're not having come up with new money or figuring out where it came from. It was allotted for these purposes. So.
All right, next up on our agenda is our discussion and information portion of our agenda, and we have an MHS Science STEM update with Stanley Consultants.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Tiedemann. I am a business development director and a environmental planner with Stanley Consultants. And I'm here tonight to talk to you, give you a little bit of update. A couple months ago, we started with our feasibility study for new STEM labs at the high school. And so I was asked to kind of give you an update and show you kind of our progression through the project. So what we've done thus far, and I apologize, I know it's really hard for you to read, it's really hard for me to read as well, was we visited the existing science labs at the high school that are very old and antiquated, which is very common across the state of Iowa. But we did take a look at the existing science lab space just for the layout, for the area that's available. In addition to the existing science lab area, we also did take a look at the former language arts area, which is almost directly above this area. And that would be used or utilized potentially as an area that we could use to develop these labs without disrupting the existing science lab area. We kind of evaluated both of those. As a third option, we did look at doing either an expansion to the building or a freestanding area on the grounds, but kind of off-site a little bit. Just roughing numbers, when we were doing the site walkover, we've kind of, just as a quick pencil mark, scratched the third just because of a very high level of cost. We think that these two areas, being the existing science labs and then the former language arts area, are going to be very comparable in cost, and the offsite or the expansion would be a higher dollar figure. So I thought it might be interesting. I don't know how many of you have been in the high school before or recently, but just to give you a little idea what we were dealing with, these are some of the existing industrial technology areas. This is lab space. In a lot of the buildings that we've worked in the past, the black countertop wooden look, very common across high schools across America. Again, more lab spaces. So our next step from visiting the lab spaces was to kind of take a look at existing commercial labs in the Muscatine community. We wanted to take the STEM staff from the high school and visit these areas so that they would have a better idea, that they could prepare the students in their classes for what they would see going out into the community. So the two places that we had visited thus far had been GPC. So we visited the QA/QC lab and the R&D lab. For obvious purposes, they did not allow us to take pictures except for one. And this was just to get the teachers an idea of what these labs would look like, how the spaces were laid out, how the equipment, how they utilized the equipment in those spaces, so that you know, it could be something that we could mimic at the high school. We also got to visit the H&I lab, couple labs. They had a product testing lab and the robotics lab, which were very cool to see. Yeah. So our next steps moving forward, you know, we're trying to work with the desires and the wants of the teaching staff with a budgeted, trying to maintain a budget, and trying to prepare for not next year what they're going to teach, but what they're going to teach in 5 years or want to teach in 5 years. What are these students going to crave in 5 years? So these are some of the spaces that you could see. This is more of an industrial feel STEM lab. We have this type of, a lot of the teaching staff did share with us that they like to see the lab space separated from the classroom space, both having their focused uses and not really having that crossover feel. You know, have the students focused on, you know, paying attention to the front. They're all focused at the front in the classroom area, and then at their lab designated area in the lab spaces. So moving forward, existing spaces, we're going to evaluate other high schools, what they've done. We are at an advantage because there are high schools in Iowa that have done this. We can take a look at what have they done, have the opportunity to meet with those teaching professionals, ask them what would they have done different, what's working, what's not working, and utilize that in our report going forward. Our next step is to bring kind of the industry leaders and some of the human resource professionals together and pick their brains. What do they see as a need for the trends that they're needing, the skill sets that the students are needing to when they come out of high school. When we were at GPC, they said, you know, they had job openings for students right out of high school. And so this would be an opportunity to have some exposure while they're still in high school and prepare them for that next step. And then getting the Governor's STEM Advisory Council and then the high school STEM teaching staff together in a group, allowing that conversation to happen, look at identifying the trends in the state and the nation, incorporating that into a design that we see moving forward, and then, you know, ultimately help design a STEM lab in Muscatine High School that will be a showcase. You know, they have showcase STEM labs in the Des Moines Metro. There's no reason that Muscatine High couldn't have one as well, within budget.
What questions does the board have?
What's the timeline we're looking at to get to through the next step?
Great question. Ultimately, we would have liked to have had this done before school let out. Getting people together was a little bit harder than I had accounted for. We're shooting for, you know, probably the first or second week of June.
The STEM Advisory Council meets this Thursday, so they're meeting in West Liberty. So there's an opportunity if you need support making that happen, let me know.
Great, thank you.
We'll need 24 hours notice because it is a state board, so it has to have a published agenda.
Right, thank you.
So the configuration of the science labs at the high school now and the use of the language arts department, will you explain that again, what the thinking is there? And then also the industrial tech is on the opposite side of the building. So it's just exploratory to determine which area, or what's the thinking?
Exactly. We were trying to take a look at available spaces that either could be renovated, or one of the criteria that was kind of set out in our plan for this report was, how can we lessen the disruption in the high school? And so we could renovate the existing science area, and we kind of talked about, you know, there could be a phased, you know, we renovate half of it while the other half is still in teachable space.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could renovate the area almost directly above it, at the time that we maintain the science area in an area that could still maintain classes. The area upstairs would be, I'm told, easier to kind of relocate those classrooms at the time that we're renovating. The good thing about it is it's almost identical to the science area below it, so it was very helpful in utility relocations or expansion. So that was kind of why that was kind of an area that was chosen. The industrial technology area, we've kind of determined through our walkthrough that was kind of an area that might just stay there because of its access. There's like some large overhead doors that they utilize in their programming. So we might not touch them, but it might be something that maybe there's certain areas of that we could incorporate into the new lab space.
Well, it seems like in the science area, a lot of those rooms have been chopped up, and they're pretty small areas. So I guess that's just a question, you know, isn't that area kind of confined?
The good thing is all those walls, for the most part, are temporary. So they're very easily moved, I guess, better than a concrete or a block wall.
Yeah.
So that's.
Do you
that's
remember
kind
the square footage of that area? It was a ridiculous amount
It's big.
of
is what you're
space.
saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I just know the picture of the room, it reminded me how small the labs or those rooms really are. Thank you.
Any other questions for Melissa?
Melissa, what would be, do you think, a realistic a date that we could actually start construction on this?
Always with the hard questions. A lot is going to depend on the choice of the district, because our goal at the end of this report will be to lay out essentially the information for all three choices, and allow the district to make that final choice. We will offer a recommendation based on set criteria, one of it being cost, one of them being less disruption to the school. But depending on that choice is going to dictate how quick we can get design documents prepared, and then, have to go out for a competitive bid.
Any other questions? Melissa, thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for hanging until almost the bitter end to give us an update. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is facilities discussion.
Yeah, and I promise I will not take too long on this, but as you know, we've been having a lot of conversation, not only at the board level, but I've visited with all of our staff about our enrollment, future of our enrollment and the declining enrollment. And what we recognize out of that is that we are going to need to do a better job of managing the number of buildings we have and how we're going to use them. And I know we've had some conversation about, well, looking at an early childhood center and some of those in a different grade configuration. What I'm going to recommend that in moving forward, because we do have to continue this conversation and keep it moving forward, because we want to stay in front of the curve on this. I would recommend that this summer we put together a committee that would begin its work in the fall, that would include teachers, principals, community members, parents, taking a look at everything from grade configurations and patterns of grades, so that the board would have a sense of, well, this would be, is K6 the best option? Is PK 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings a good option? Should we stay with the buildings, the configuration we have? I think we need to take a look at what would be the best for the education and development of our students. Then the board can take that information, then we can take a look at what are the buildings that would best meet those needs, and what is it going to cost to renovate those buildings to make that happen. Rather than trying to find a solution and fit everything around it, let's figure out what we want and what would be best for our students, and then move forward and say, okay, we need these buildings to do that. We'll need to renovate these buildings to make that happen, and then we'll also then have we'll be able to see which buildings that we may not have to utilize, which again is one of the things we have to do is we have to reduce our fixed cost if our enrollment's declining, and so I think that would be a good way of approaching this. We would have some good information, and it would really be leading the conversation about what's the best educational design and not just what's the best physical plant decision to make at the time.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Jerry on that topic?
No, it's a tough task. So it's not something that gets done in a couple meetings overnight, so.
Yeah, it's going to, you know, it's going to take probably at least 6 months or so to take a look at this, because there's a lot of factors involved. You know, I think one of the things that we're going to have to take a look at is looking at from a real estate model, where is projected growth in the district? What's that going to be looking like? You know, from traffic flow to, I mean, there's a lot of issues that we should take a look at now and try and be in front of when we do this. So rather than saying, well, this building is, you know, I think we could close that building. Well, that may not be the building that would make the most sense.
Right. Have people been lining up to offer to donate lots and get a school named after them?
None other than Mather Elementary, which I would be. No, you know,
that's small square footage.
Yeah. We didn't say how big it'd be. You know, that's one of the things in growing districts. Often, when they put up housing developments, they will provide land in that for a school to be built, because it's good for the development. We don't have that kind of building going on, and you know, we may have. Depending on what we come up with, we may have the facilities we need. They just need to be retrofitted to something. We do know, though, that down the road we have a lot of buildings that are going to be showing their age. And so we not only have to look at configuration, but we're going to need to be looking at some point at replacement schedules for these. But the good news, we're looking at it now. It's not like the musical instrument thing where we're at a stage, well, we're duct taping the trumpets together. We're looking at it, well, we have time to make good, rational decisions. We have the capacity to use our resources wisely to get to where we need to be, and not have the district put in jeopardy. So that's the good thing. It is, though, we have to keep moving with this, because at some point, if we don't, it will be really difficult to make those decisions, and we'll have to operate out of crisis.
Okay. Next on our agenda are the March financials.
Okay, the Treasurer's report for March is being presented, and just the one comment I'll have, I'm sure you all noticed there's a negative revenue, and that's just a reclassification that had to happen through our reconciliation process. The next three documents are our general fund budget, and really no change from last month in our general fund. We're still on our targets. And the activity fund, I think everything is being looked at very closely in reconciling. Club sponsors and coaches are getting their reports every month on the 15th, so they don't use the board book anymore to find out what their balances are. And then the nutrition report through March.
Any questions for Tom?
Thanks, sir.
You let us spend our budget and then just make it really easy for us. Yep. How easy is that?
It's not as easy as it looks. Tom does a great job of managing our resources, and again, in a time when we've been, this year we're down about 150 students, and we are still in a position of really strong financial position, and it's a lot of good work that Tom puts in.
Thank you, Tom.
Of course, that's after we just spent how many of the
right,
capital
yes.
fund? That scream you hear will be Tom later going home.
He's probably glad we were all.
So the capital project's cash flow is obsolete that I just finished today, so I'll redo that.
No, wait a minute. You just told us it was all in there.
I'll redo it. So.
Tom, as long as that's on my desk tomorrow morning by 7:30, we're in good shape.
Right. No pressure. Our last agenda item then are announcements and meetings and events. It's a very exciting time of year for our students. May 23rd is our seniors' last day. I'm willing to bet if they want to go to school a couple of extra days, we would allow that. Is that safe to say?
That is safe to say. My grandson, who's a student in Boston Public Schools, their last day will be June 28th this year with snow days.
Snow days.
So
A lot of them.
So there you go. I wish you could see all the faces of the students in the audience right now because they're not appreciating that. So seniors' last day is May 23rd. May 27th, we will celebrate the class of 2018 graduates, which we will all be very excited to do. May 28th is Memorial Day. Students' last day, assuming we don't have any more snow days between now and then, which
Never
let's
say
hope
never.
we don't, right? May 30th.
Last month you might have thought differently.
That's right. May 30th will be our students' last day, and it's a 2-hour early dismissal that day as well. May 31st is retirement and 30-year employee celebrations for our district members, so we look forward to that as well. And then June 11th, we will be back here for a regular board meeting at 7 p.m. Are there any other announcements for the good of the cause? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
I know one of these times you're all going to leave me hanging. I'm just waiting for that. All right, I'm not even going to offer any discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.